Hello and welcome to our second video on file handling for today. Let us take a look at the problem that we have before us. It says that there is a file called student.txt having the names, ages and marks obtained of 5 students. So we are supposed to have a file called student.txt and it should contain the names, ages and marks of 5 students. So let us take a look at the file. So here is a sample file called student.txt. So you can see that there are 15 entries in total for 5 students, and each of those rows contain the names. Here the first entry corresponds to the name, the second entry, that is 12, it corresponds to the age of the student, and the third entry corresponds to the marks obtained. So in this manner, so this one actually denotes the name, the second entry denotes the marks obtained, the age, and the third one, this one, represents the marks obtained. So this is how the file is organized. So this file contains the names, ages and marks obtained of each and every student. So there are 5 students in total: A, B, C, D and E, and for every student there is the name itself as well as the age of the student and his marks. So this is how this file has been organized. Alright, so our task is to read only the marks of the 5 students from this file and print them in sorted order. So we have to, from this file, our task is to read only the marks that the student has obtained and print all of these marks in sorted order. So let us take a look at the marks obtained by the students in this file. So the first student, that is A, he has obtained 78. So the third entry in this series corresponds to the marks obtained. So for A, the marks obtained is 78. For B, the marks obtained is 24. For C, the marks obtained is 55. And D, the marks is 66. And for E, he is the lowest scorer, it seems, because he has got only 9. So if we are to arrange them in ascending order, so the first one will be 9. After that, I think it will be 24. After that it will be 55, then 66 and finally 78. So this is how the marks should be printed. So they should be printed as after sorting, 9, then 24, then 55. Remember that we are proceeding in an ascending order, then 78. So we'll have to read only the marks and then we'll have to print the marks in ascending order. So let us take a look at the code for this particular program. So here I have this code. So before I can go ahead and write the program for this, first of all remember that we'll have to create a file called student.txt. Either you can create a file manually like this, or what you can do is you can just write a program in Java. So I've already explored how to create a file in using a text file, how to create a text file in Java using your print writer class and buffered writer and file writer. So this has been discussed in the previous session. So using file writer, buffered writer and print writer, a combination of these three, you can just create a new file and you can store them in your in this particular file that is being referenced here, that is student.txt. So this program is not actually the code for this problem. This is this code shows how you can create a text file and store some data in the text file. So I believe we have done a program very similar to this in our previous session that was held in January 18th. So in that program what we have done is we have taken the names, roll numbers and marks of 5 students and we had stored them in a file called student.txt. This program is slightly different in that instead of roll number we are taking age. So first of all, either you can create the file manually, this file has been created manually, or you can just write a program and enter the names, ages and marks using your programming code, and you can run it and then store your data in the file. So after you've done that, you'll have to go ahead and perform this task, that is read only the marks of 5 students and print them in sorted order. But the problem that we are going to face now is that here we have only, here we don't have only the marks, we have the names, ages, as well as the marks obtained of 5 students. So we cannot, it's not possible for us to read only the marks obtained. So we'll have to read all the values in the file, and we'll have to devise some technique by using which we can identify only the marks obtained, and then store them somewhere, and then organize them in ascending order and print them. So while we are reading a file, we'll have to proceed in a serial manner. We cannot just jump to the marks part and read only the marks and go ahead to the next marks, that is the marks obtained by the next person, and then go ahead and read the marks obtained by C, and so on. So we cannot simply just read the marks and just be done with that. So if we are reading from a file, we'll have to read all the data one by one. So how can we identify only the marks obtained in the file, from the file? So if you take a closer look at the organization of this file, you can see that the first entry is the name, the second entry is the age of the file, the age of the student, and the third one corresponds to the marks obtained. So whenever we are going to the third position, so the third position in each entry represents the marks obtained. So this, if we are to number these entries from 1 to 3 like this, so this entry will be at number 3, this one will be at number 6, this second, the marks obtained by second person, and this one will be, this 55 will be at number 9, this 66 will be at number 12, and 9 will be at number 15. So the marks obtained at the positional index of the marks obtained of each student is divisible by 3. So this one, the positional index of 78 is 3, because this is the third entry in our file. This one, the positional index of 24 is 6. This is the 6th entry of our file, and this one, this is the 9th entry in our file, and this one is the 12th entry in our file, and this one is the final entry, this is the 15th entry. So what we can do is, we can just number the entries that we are reading, and whenever we are accessing a value that is actually divisible by 3, so you can see the indexes of all of these values, that is 78, 24, 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15, all of these positional indexes are actually divisible by 3. So if we keep a counter that starts from the beginning, and whenever a file is being read, that is a line from the file is being read, we increment the counter by 1. So whenever the value of the counter reaches a value which is divisible by 3, we can say that we are reading an entry which is the marks obtained. So whenever the counter values, the value of the counter acquires a value, that is the value of the counter becomes something which is divisible by 3, what we can do is, we can just divide it by 3 and check whether we are getting a remainder 0 or not. So if it is divisible by 3, we can conclude that we are reading an entry that is actually the marks obtained for that particular student. So we can just take that marks, we can obtain that marks from the file, and we can store it in an empty array. Alright, so let us see what we have done here, how the program has been implemented here. So first of all, here you can see that we are referencing this student.txt. So student.txt is obviously this file reader is pointing to an existing file. So if we point to a non-existent file, this is not going to work for obvious reasons. So here you can see that we are having a file called student.txt. So this name, age and marks obtained, we are just using these notations for illustrative purposes only. This file originally didn't contain these entries, so I'll be removing them later on, otherwise the program is likely to malfunction. So these lines are not supposed to be there. We are only going to have the name, age and marks obtained. So this is the file that we are pointing to in our program, and what we are doing is, we are creating the buffered reader, file reader. After that we are creating the buffered reader class, and we are passing the object of file reader through the buffered reader class. And then what we are doing is, we are creating an empty array. So there are 5 students, so there should be 5 entries, one for each student for the marks obtained, that is So we are going to read these marks obtained from this file, and we are going to store them in the empty array, that is marks. Alright. So for that very reason we have created the array called marks, and the capacity of the array is 5. Because there are 5 there is 5 entry there are 5 entries for the marks obtained for each student. So we can say that an array of size 5 can hold the marks obtained of all the students A, B, C, D, E. So for that reason we have created an array called marks with a capacity of 5. And after that we have declared some variables, and then we have created a string data variable that is used to store the data that we are reading from our file. So while data equals br.readline not equals to null. So we know that when we are reading data from a byte oriented file, that is whenever we are reading data from a file, so whenever we are reading, so I think I have not discussed this before, so let me just tell you. So whenever we want to access the data that has already been stored in a file, so what we can do is we can use a string value. So the string value that we are using here is string data. So all the entries in the file are string entries. So all the data that we have in our file, including the numeric data, these are all string variables. Okay. So whenever we want to read these data from the file, read the data from our file, we'll have to employ a string type variable that will access the data from the file, and it will store the data in that particular variable. In our case, what we are doing is we are reading the data from this file using our readline command, and we are storing them in data, in this variable data. And we know that this reading operation, it cannot go on forever. Okay. So the reading operation will stop whenever we reach the end of the file. So how can we identify the end of the file? The end of the file represents the point after which there is no further entry in the file. So originally there were only 15 entries, so this 9 was the last entry. So after 9 we can conclude that the file has ended. So how can we identify the ending point of a file? So whenever we are reading a valid line, that is a valid entry from the file, this data value will have some valid value, that is valid line of text. But whenever we are attempting to read an empty line, that is a line that doesn't contain any data, numeric or otherwise, so this string value, it will return a null character. Okay. So whenever we are reading from a line that is actually empty, the string value will read that line and it will return the value of null. So the value null actually means that there is no further entry in that particular file. So when we start reading from the beginning, this string character, that is the string variable that we are using, it will read all the entries in the file one by one, and finally after it has finished reading all the files, it will attempt to read the next line, but in the next line there is no text whatsoever. So this string data, it will have a null value because there is no line being read over here. So whenever this data is pointing to a null character, we can identify the end of the file. So as long as we don't read a null character in the file, we'll go on reading, and after we'll simply what we have done is we are reading the data and we are printing them. So this is not required. I've just done it for debugging the program, so I'm just commenting it out. So now what we are doing is we are reading the data in a sequential manner. So first we are reading A, then 12, then 78, then B, then 12, 24, and so on. So the entry at the third position, this represents the marks that was obtained by the student. So all the positional index of all the marks obtained is divisible by 6. So this is the positional index of 78. So this is the third. The index is 3. This is the index of 24, which is 6. This is the index of 55, which is 9, and so on. So the positional indexes of these files, these entries for the marks obtained are all divisible by 3. So we are keeping a counter that is being incremented every time we are reading an entry from the file. So there are some values in the file, as you can see over here. So whenever we are reading a value, the value of this counter is being incremented by 1. Okay. So every time the value of the counter reaches a value, the value of counter is incremented to a value which is divisible by 6. We can conclude that we are reading a line that corresponds to the marks obtained by the student. So whenever the value of I is divisible by 3, so after incrementing the value of I, what we are doing is in each iteration we are checking the value of I whether it is divisible by 3 or not. So if it is divisible by 3, what we are doing is we are taking the value that was read by this data. So this data originally holds a string variable, and in order to convert it to integer, what we are doing is we are using integer.parsing command. So this converts this string character to integer, and it stores it in our marks array. Okay, so we are also using a counter for the subscript of the marks array. So the marks array starts from this. You can see that the capacity of this array is 5. So this k is equal to 0 represents the first positional index of the marks array. So the marks obtained by the first student, that is 78, it is stored at the position 0 of the array. Then this 24, that is the marks obtained by the second student, is stored at the second position of the array, that is 1. And this marks obtained by C, that is 55, is stored at the third position, that is 2, and so on. So like this we fill up the marks array, that is we populate this marks array with the marks obtained with by all the students. Alright, and finally what we are doing is we are printing all the original marks over here, that is the unsorted marks in the sequence that they were originally. And after that we are just simply performing a bubble sort over here. So we are doing a simple bubble sort operation for our for arranging marks in ascending order. So we are simply what we are doing is we are simply using our bubble sort operation. So this array array named marks I, it contains the marks obtained by all the 5 students. So now our task is to print all these marks in a proper sequence, that is either ascending order or descending order. So in our program it says sorted order, it doesn't specify ascending or descending order. So we will assume that they have asked us to arrange them in ascending order. So we are assuming ascending order is needed. So what we are doing is we are running the bubble sort operation, and we are arranging all the marks in ascending order using our bubble sort algorithm. So this is the loop for the bubble sort. I hope you are already familiar with this. So it is just comparing the adjacent values in the array. So marks j and marks j plus 1, these are the adjacent values in the array, and we are comparing them and we are arranging them in proper order. And finally, after the array is sorted, we are printing the sorted marks. So this is how we are supposed to implement this problem, that is implement it in Java code. So in this program we learned two things. First of all, how we can read the data from a text file. So to read the data from a text file, we'll have to use this while loop. So this is compulsory for all text files. So in Java what we can do is we can read the data from the file, and then we can check whether the value that is being read is a null value or not. So as long as we are not reading a null value, we can assume that we have not reached the end of the file. So but if we end up reading a null value, and so then we can conclude that the file, we have reached the EOF, that is the end of file, and then this operation will terminate. Okay, so let us now run this program and check how it performs. So what kind of output we are going to get. So let us just run the program and take a look at that. So this output, let me just check this. So this is the original marks. So let us verify it from the file. So I haven't saved this file. So this is the program, what it has done is it has read all of these entries from the unsaved file. So this is the file student.txt. Here it contains 78. This is the marks obtained of the first student. 24 corresponds to the marks obtained by second student, 55 third student, 66 fourth, and 9 is for the fifth student. And now all the marks are taken from here, and they are stored in this array called marks. So the marks array stores all of these values 78, 24, 55, 66 and 9, and after that we are simply rearranging them in ascending order. So we can use any order of our choice, but here I have taken ascending order for my convenience. So we are simply rearranging them in ascending order using our bubble sort operation, and then we are printing the marks. So this concludes our tutorial for this program. So this is a pretty lengthy program, and if you have any doubts, please contact me, or you can leave your questions in the comment section. So that's it for today, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care everybody.